Now at 2-1, Badgerland is 5-2. When you're a jockey in a 16-horse field going 1.25 miles, what is the basic strategy you're thinking about?
Well, really, Al, in a race like this could turn out to be a jockey's race. Doesn't necessarily mean it will, but it could. There are 3 crucial places in this race where a rider really has to be on his toes. Whether you're a front runner or come from behind horse, you have to get a good start. That's very, very important. You can't live through a bad start. Then there's a big pile up here on a turn, everybody jockeying for positions. The sprinters, and I don't mean sprinters, but the speed horses, they don't want to have a suicide pace. They've got to kind of conserve their horse and get into the turn well. You don't want to lose any ground around the first turn. The horses that come from behind, they have that same alternative. They don't want to lose too much ground around the turn. Going into that far turn, that's where the race really begins. The leaders that are strong, they're going to have to hold their position. The come from behind horses can't afford to go around too many horses. And, of course, they can't afford to be shut off going between horses. Then, of course, at the quarter pole, that's where the race begins.
All right, let's go back to Jim McKay.
All right, Al, there are all kinds of handicapping theories. There's trip handicapping and speed handicapping. And there's the one they're talking about this year, the very complicated thing called the dosage index. Now, every winner of the Kentucky Derby since 1927 has had the proper dosage. What is dosage? Let's take a look. First of all, you trace back 4 generations of sires, and they are ranked for their qualifications from brilliant, meaning speed, to professional, meaning stamina. There are 5 categories in all. A number is drawn from that with a formula going from 0 to infinity, and 4 is the magic number. If you have one over 4, you cannot win the Kentucky Derby, and that is held up since 1927. What about this year? Well, they say that Snow Chief doesn't have it. He has one of 5.0. Others who are non-contenders, according to the dosage, Mogambo, one of the favorites, Bachelor Bow, and the English horse, Bold Arrangement. Well, maybe you have your own theory. A good one, like throwing a dart at the program and seeing where it sticks. I picked mine that way. Let's go down to Jack Whitaker now in the paddock.
All right, as you see, Snow Chief, favorite over there, being saddled up. Mel Studi there to the right. And he's looking quite calm and nice. As a matter of fact, most of them are, and the weather has been a blessing today. It's cool, a nice breeze, and that makes it very nice for the horses and the spectators. Here's Ferdinand, number 1. Charles Whittingham, the trainer, the Hall of Famer, and Bill Shoemaker has the ride. A handsome colt, and absolutely classically bred, especially for longer distances. And he is looking very alert, ears up, as you see. Eyes alert, his coat is fine. And now we're looking at Badgerland, number 7, as he comes around here with his blinkers. And we'll get a good look as he passes in front of us. His ears are up. He looks full of it. And ready to go. Nice shining coat. And very calm. Everybody calm here. As you see the crowd in the middle of this paddock here, and the crowds outside pressing in, which cause problems if we have any problems here. Mogambo, number 2, who has just been syndicated for breeding rights, half of them for about $11 million, so a lot of interest in him today. Broadbrush, number 6, winner of the Wood Memorial, coming around. And he's also looking fine. As a matter of fact, the deportment here is quite excellent. Any school teacher would love to have this for class. Number 3, our British friend, Bold Arrangement. And take a look at him. He is going for a new experience here. Only raced on grass once and around left-handed turns once. And here he is in the Kentucky Derby. He's going to try to win the Derby and then go home and win the English Derby. And he is looking just fine also. This is probably one of the most relaxed paddocks I have seen in all the Kentucky Derbies I've been to. Everybody under control. Everybody expectant, of course, with great anticipation. And we'll be back as we draw nearer to the magic moment here for the 112th Kentucky Derby right after this.
The small car buyer delivered his challenge to the American car maker loud and clear.
Again, the current odds and the jockey's silks reflected, the colors reflected on the left, so take a look at your favorite horse and you'll know what color the jockey is wearing. What's interesting there, not much change since we came on the air. Ferdinand still 17-1, Mogambo and Bold Arrangement still 8-1, Vernon Castle 12-1, Rampage has been holding close to 8-1, Broad Brush still at 14-1, and as we continue on, Badgerland at 5-2, Wheatley Hall not getting much backing. Snow Chief is the favorite at 2-1, Bachelor Bow and Groovy, and then you have the field, which is currently 15-1. And with Bill Hartack, let's talk about some of the other horses now. Number 6, for instance, Broad Brush is 14-1. Appears to be a pretty good bet.
I think I like this horse. My heart is with Snow Chief, and that's who I really like. But if anybody surprises, I think this is a horse that can do it.
All right, but not much action at 14-1. Then you have Bold Arrangement. Now, you rode an English bred here about 12 years ago. How do they come back the second time? He looked so good at Keeneland.
Well, mine came back better the second time, but he didn't have the race this horse had the first time. And I like this horse. He has to improve in order to win, but I think that there is a chance that he is going to improve.
Magambo has been kind of erratic. We pointed that out early, but Magambo, number 2, is a horse obviously capable of winning on his best day.
Well, the thing about Magambo is even with his temperament, he's only been out of the money once, and I'll tell you, he's got a terrific stride, and he can go a mile and a quarter, and he's a threat.
So there he is, Magambo, with 4 wins in his 11 career starts. And then, if I've got to go for a long shot, I like this Rampage out of Arkansas. And if you like a thrill, he's a horse that comes from behind, and he's 8-1 right now.
I'll tell you, Al, he's not out of it. And I'll tell you, the contention here is very deep. And it's going to depend on how the race progresses. That's going to give a lot of other horses a better shot than what they look like on paper. The good thing about Rampage is every one of his starts, he keeps closing. He keeps punching at the end. And, of course, Bobby Forbes, who I don't even know why is in the field, he has a similar form. He keeps punching at the end.
For a jockey right now, Bill, and we're some 12, 15 minutes away from the start of the race, what's going through your mind at this moment?
Well, just about this time, I really want to get on the racetrack and get it over with. Of course, you can't do that because you're on a timing schedule. But really, you've built up everything that you could possibly do. You should have had your homework done by the time you get to this race. And now what you want to do is you want to get on your horse. You want to get out here and warm him up, see how he feels to you. Hopefully, he's going to give you a good feeling and not a bad one. But then after that, then your reflexes and your thoughts are going to take over once that gate goes up, and you're on your own. It's a very crowded field. There could be some pile-ups around the turn. You've got to be on your guard and alert at all times.
It's an odd race in the sense that so much of the pre-race publicity centered around one horse, Snow Chief, who was a 6-5 morning line favorite and is currently 2-1, and yet it does not figure by any stretch of the imagination to be the type of race that's a runaway. In fact, it can be far more classified as wide open than a 1 or a 2 horse race. So a look at the field, at some of the contenders, and let's go back to Joe.
That's elevator. Right. You know what it is? Yeah.
All right. Time to be moving out for the Kentucky Derby. Soon, My Old Kentucky Home by Stephen Collins Foster, a man from Pittsburgh. But he visited here often, and the home that was supposed to have inspired that song is this one, 60 miles from here in Bardstown, Kentucky. You can go and visit it these days and hear on the chimes those strains that always bring a tear to our eye and will very shortly. Moving out to the racetrack now, and even the jockeys will tell you, or some of them have told me, that they do hear the song. George Velasquez says, when you come on the track and you see the people and they play that song, your heart goes bang, bang, bang. The call to the post will be given this time by a woman. The official bugler now is Karen Easterday, 21 years old. They auditioned 7 people, 6 men and 1 woman, and the woman won. Well done, Karen. Ready for the song now, which will be sung for the first time before this crowd. It's always been just a band before by the Stephen Collins Foster Singers.
Along with the Stephen
The
Foster
hope is, and I think will be the fact, that the crowd will sing along with them.
Kentucky Home.
American
And now many have had their moment in the sun. It's time for the horses to shine. 16 to go to the post in the Kentucky Derby. As we look at them, you will see the current odds listed on the bottom of your screen for each one. Number 1 will be Ferdinand. We'll be getting a look at them as they turn back and move in towards us again. There's part of the huge throng on the clubhouse turn. Everybody up in the fancy boxes, down in the grandstand and the clubhouse. And behind our camera here, the huge crowd in the infield. Celebrities on hand. There's Ginger Rogers. Well, at the Breeders' Cup the first time we saw Fred Astaire, her old dancing partner. He's a great racing fan, too. Probably watching out in California today. Ginger's still an entertainer after all these years. Everybody's here for the great Kentucky Derby. Turning back now towards the home stretch. They'll march up there, then break out into a warm-up. 16 horses, 5 of them in the pari-mutuel field. Therefore, the post positions, as Al told you earlier, will be different than the saddlecloth numbers. Number 1, Ferdinand, trained by Charlie Whittingham, looking for his first Derby win at the age of 73. The rider, again, is 54-year-old Bill Shoemaker. Number 2 is Mogambo, one of the favorites here, trained by Leroy Jolly, the only trainer who has won this Derby among those in the race today. He won it twice with Foolish Pleasure and Genuine Risk. The rider both times was today's rider, Jacinto Vasquez. Here's the English horse, Bold Arrangement, being walked by his trainer, Clive Britton, there on the near side. And on the other side of the horse is his lad. That's what they call grooms back in England. Number 4 is Vernon Castle, winner of the California Derby, named after the great dancer of the 19 teens and 20s. Vernon and Irene Castle was the partnership. Number 5, Rampage, winner of the Arkansas Derby. He's the one they call Rambo because he's so tough. There is Rampage, a Florida bred. There 8 horses in the field are non-Kentucky breds. Let's move on to number 6, the Pride of Maryland, Broad Brush, Bob Meyerhoff's horse, trained by Dick Small, ridden by Vince Brashali Jr., a very talented Maryland jockey. He's held at 14 to 1 now. Number 7 will be the second favorite, it appears at the moment, Badgerland. That's the Lucas horse, ridden by the remarkable and the redoubtable George Velasquez, one of the top jockeys of his generation. Number 8 will be a long shot, and if you like a real long shot, take a look at Wheatley Hall. He might just do it. Jack Van Berg is his trainer, the winningest trainer of all time. Gary Stevens, a very good jockey. Here is the favorite. This is Snow Chief, ridden by Alex Solis, and 2 to 1 the odds. He is the favorite at the moment. Number 10 is Bachelor Beau, winner of the Bluegrass Stakes. He's a long shot, ridden by Larry Melanson. Number 11 will be The Speed Horse, may lead the race by the clubhouse turn, even though he's from the outside. That's Groovy. Number 12, and now we move to the horses in the mutual field. Number 12 is Wise Times. He didn't win the Louisiana Derby, but he ran the last eighth of a mile in 11 3/5 seconds. That's quite remarkable. Watch for him charging at the finish of this race. Number 13 will be Icy Groom. He's owned by William Fleming, trained by Sam Raymer. That's his 5th trainer, by the way, ridden by Eddie Maple. Number 14, Southern Appeal. If he was not in the mutual field, he might be 100 to 1 or more. Number 15, Zabaleta, has already broken out of the post parade. He's a speed horse, too. Will be near the outside. And number 16, Bobby Forbes, owned by Bob Brennan, and ridden by the courageous jockey Randy Romero, who almost died of burns a couple of years ago, later suffered a broken leg. Now to Lynn Swan.
Jim, I'm standing in what is officially called the clubhouse courtyard. Very often it's referred to as the Rose Garden or the Tulip Garden because those flowers are grown here. But today, it's here on Derby Day, it's standing room only. Many of the people have come here. They're strolling around, sampling the food, having a mint julep, lovely bonnets, people upon the ladies' heads. But all the time, they're keeping one eye on this giant tote board behind me and an ear to the call because they're all waiting in anticipation of hearing their favorite for the Derby name come across that finish line first, Jim.
Okay, and so Snow Chief is still the favorite. Badgerland's second favorite. Third favorite at the moment is Mogambo. That's the way the crowd feels right now.